Very good evening, everyone, and warm welcome to this oncology classroom evening session. As you all know that this month we are discussing some interesting topics, selected topics from gynecological oncology. Last day was the first part of brachytherapy in gynecological malignancy, and that discussed mainly the intracavitary radiation. In continuation with that, today we are going to discuss the second part or part two of this series, and today's discussion will be brachytherapy in gynecological malignancy and focusing on interstitial radiation therapy. This lecture will be taken by one of our beloved senior radiation oncologist, Dr. Sushobhan Banerjee, who is currently a senior consultant radiation oncologist at Medanta, the Medicity, Gurgaon. And those who know him does not need any special mentioning about this fact that he is one of the most humble and dedicated radiation oncologist. And I take this honor to say that perhaps the only radiation oncologist I have seen in my career so far who has innovated a device. And that means a lot. And that too in relation with interstitial radiotherapy for gynecological malignancies. So let us all welcome Dr. Sushobhan Banerjee today in this evening program. And I really hope that his lecture will enlighten us on this interesting talk. Thank you, sir, for accepting this invitation. And without wasting any further time now, I will request you to please take over this session and start your presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Dodul Mondal. Thanks for the opportunity. So we will be discussing today about interstitial brachytherapy mainly because the first part has been discussed well some few days back by Dr. Abhishek, and it was a very nice presentation. We'll just continue with from where he left. And I will just, can I share the screen now? I think yes.
Yes, you can.
Where is it actually? Hello?
Yes.
I cannot see the Zoom actually posted in Zoom posted.
Is it showing any message? Because I
No,
have
no.
screen option.
Huh?
The share screen option is enabled.
I see that, but I just lost the Zoom. Where is it? Okay. So, is it, can you see it now?
Yes.
So we'll be discussing gynecological brachytherapy part 2, okay? And thanks Dr. Dodul for this opportunity, and thanks everyone for gathering to evening of a Monday evening. It's a very busy day, we all know, but even then you are all here. And most of you may have taken some COVID vaccination. Some of you may have some malaise, or I don't know. But welcome to this today's presentation. So last session we talked about brachytherapy concept, that brachytherapy is the most conformal form of radiotherapy, and even so-called proton or heavy ion actually cannot match its conformality. And there is a slide also in it if you all remember. Then we also discussed about the historical prospects of brachytherapy, mainly intercavity brachytherapy in cancer cervix, and how different systems evolved and how the Manchester system became the mainstay of our intercavity treatment and all those things. It was well depicted in some nice diagrams and historical pictures. We also learned about intercavity brachytherapy, mainly point-based and both image-guided. Both was discussed. Intercavity brachytherapy, point-based and mainly point A. Point A is of paramount importance. It is a historic point and how the dose has been prescribed, how it from the point came, and how good the point is that even today the point is being so the point is so relevant and is the cornerstone of actually cervical cancer brachytherapy, both in intercavity two-dimensional and even in three-dimensional. We will discuss later. Then role of imaging and image-guided brachytherapy, how imaging can improve the quality of brachytherapy. It can help in choosing the brachytherapy modality, first of all, and then when we choose the modality, how is actually it can be used to treat the patient and how it has improved the outcomes in last 10 years or 15 years mainly over the world. It has also now known to us. And this imaging, maybe CT scan, maybe MRI, maybe ultrasound also. Then JCastro concepts, which are actually now the our cornerstone image-guided brachytherapy, interstitial brachytherapy, and JCastro concepts have replaced all other schools in treatment of cancer cervix by brachytherapy. And then improved results, we all know. So what to discuss today then? Because so today we'll be discussing more about techniques of interstitial brachytherapy. I believe most of the audiences are maybe some of my junior colleagues or some people who are actually now new to the subject and are there for 2 years or 3 years. So there is a constant wherever we meet people, wherever we meet friends, and even from our days when we were actually doing MD, we all know that there is a tremendous interest of doctors in radiation oncology field to do brachytherapy. In many centers, this interest is met. In many centers, this interest remains unmet because of many reasons. The first is obviously logistic. There is the faculties in most of the places are well trained, but there are some issues with logistic, with anesthesia. Then there is workload that doesn't matches the brachytherapy setup. Then there are some issues in private and corporate sectors, brachytherapies, and then other linear accelerator high-end machines are there. So brachytherapy, although we all want to do because because all of us are physicians actually, and physicians always want to feel that you might do something real on the patient. We are all doing things on virtual, we are doing in the computer external beam, but at the end of the day, many of us want to do real things. And that's why brachytherapy interest comes in many of us. So we will talk about the indications of brachytherapy. IC plus IS is actually intercavity plus interstitial. It is a dual type where the two things are clubbed together, and IS is interstitial, or you can say pure interstitial. Then we'll discuss about the clinical results, mostly of those two broader types of brachytherapy techniques, which are actually the advanced form of brachytherapy. Then various applicators and templates, because once we want to do brachytherapy, we must know what are the applicators, the templates that are available, what are their important, what are their strengths, what are their weakness. So though that is how. Then the application process and experiences. Here we will mainly discuss how to proceed in a case of brachytherapy, and how we can make it more predictable actually when we are in the theater. And here I will share my own experiences, my own learning curve that I have learned over years working with my teachers, working with my colleagues, and working with the patients. And then we will learn some we will discuss some ABCD of the planning process, very fundamental things. And then how we can actually implement our brachytherapy programs in our institutions, because I already said many of us actually wants to do more advanced types of brachytherapy, put some needles. And because I have seen the tremendous interest of our own junior colleagues and our fresher students who actually come to institution, and they are standing beside, and someone is doing brachytherapy, and someone is just wanting just I just also want a needle to put. Just that is, we have all have passed through in our experiences in our career. So we'll discuss something about that. So this is a slide that I made for the actually ECRO presentation, but it was for external radiotherapy. I was now converted into brachytherapy. So you see intracavity brachytherapy and image-guided brachytherapy. So you see intracavity brachytherapy, it is actually the Maruti 800, right? It is cheap, it is cost effective, it is used for treatment of the mass, it is effective for the purpose for which it has been meant actually. It does well in its job, no doubt. It is time tested, and many of us and many of our seniors actually will always say ki I just love it because I am doing it for many years. And similar like Maruti owners, they will never sell their old car. I just love my Maruti. That's how it is. And when you come to this maybe some luxury car, so it's Mercedes is just a picture. So it is effective, purpose, and reliable for the job which it has been meant actually. It gives a comfortable journey. Here I mean that it gives you a comfort, it gives you the confidence when you are doing the job. You can actually see and you are doing it. It is image guidance. That is all about like GPS. Now you can see where you are driving to. And then it is costly. Obviously, image guided brachytherapy is costly. MRI guided brachytherapy is very costly, and there is a huge criticism on it. I will not say huge actually, but there is a criticism on it for many from many corners, and it is considered one of the drawbacks of this MR image guided brachytherapy, mainly MRI brachytherapy. Then better and long drive, it is good actually image guided brachytherapy for bigger tumors where you can actually target the tumor more effectively and you can use needles. So image guided brachytherapy includes with or without needles, that we all by this time understand. And then less toxicity. Actually, if you see, if you drive a luxury car, if you have a nice car, then it is less probably that you have a slip disc if you even pass through very rough roads. Okay. So we also believe here image guided brachytherapy will give us less toxicity. And we may love our Maruti, it's fine, but whenever we have aspirations, most of us aspire we may have something better, right? So I aspire to drive it in one day. And many of you or many of my colleagues and many of us want to do image guided brachytherapy. If you are doing conventional brachytherapy, we want to move ahead. So is that irrelevant, this point-based brachytherapy? No, definitely not. Point-based brachytherapy is the cornerstone of image-guided brachytherapy. And here we actually know that point A provides a very reliable estimation. And if you compare point-based and volume-based brachytherapy, in volume-based brachytherapy, CTV, HR or high-risk CTV, D90 dose and point A dose are actually comparable in a large population of patients. So point A brachytherapy represents a good average position of the tumor. And even in image guided brachytherapy, there is relevance of point-based point A brachytherapy, image-based or interstitial brachytherapy. If the point A dose, if no needle passes through that region, the point A dose is always measured, it is recorded, and the planning starts with itself with the concept of point A, even in image guided brachytherapy with interstitial techniques. And about those normal organs, point A, rectum and bladder, those are the cornerstone of brachytherapy, right? So rectal reference points, this rectal point actually has a very good correlation with 2cc of the organ of rectum. This is normally you all understand, because last day we saw how the rectal point is defined and how the 2cc rectum point is also defined. It is just behind the ovoids and it is the most exposed part. So it is natural that the 2cc and the point dose of rectum dose will be correlated, and it has actually correlation. So rectal doses has very much importance. Point dose has any relevance. What about the bladder dose? Now let me say that bladder dose actually is not that relevant compared to the rectal and the pointed dose, and so much correlation is not seen with the bladder dose. So this is the slide I think we discussed last day. IMRT, there has been a drop in use of brachytherapy practice, and it has effect is seen on the right side by decrease in overall survival. This is how it is. There is a data published in 2014, I think, yes. And so now comparing brachytherapy itself with the other forms of treatment, brachytherapy without brachytherapy, two-dimensional brachytherapy, and 4D brachytherapy. There is adaptive brachytherapy. So we see there is overall a 25% increase in the survival. And at the same time, as we pass from 2D to 4D, there is an improvement in survival. So this improvement in survival is due to better coverage of the tumor, better contouring of the tumor. And similarly, SBRT and IMRT, those are high-fi fancy techniques, but even, SBRT and IMRT cannot match 2D brachytherapy, leave alone 4D brachytherapy. So 2D brachytherapy itself has superior results than SBRT or IMRT. Whatever do we tried made to do SBRT, we put fiducials, we put blah, but they cannot match even the fluoroscopic brachytherapy. Okay. So this is a schematic diagram made by me for just discussion. Go ahead. In the left side, we can see this intracavitary brachytherapy, how it covers the tumors. Where after external beam radiotherapy, there has been a near complete response, actually, I will say. And you can see how well it covers. The disease should be confined mostly to the medial part of the cervix, medial half or medial 1/3 mainly. And then in the middle, you can see there is a tumor which is actually overshoots the pear-shape distribution, normal pear-shape. Here you need to put some extra techniques. We can put some oblique catheters, or we can put some straight needles from the perineum. Also, I have not put it, but it can be like an intracavity interstitial type of needle put, needle insertion, or we can put some interstitial type of needle from the perineum. So its indications are disease extending laterally, mainly to the lateral 1/3, and disease extending to the middle and lower third of the vagina, where the intracavity dose cannot reach. Actually, the upper third of the vagina, the first 3 or 4 centimeters, it can be well treated by the simple intracavity techniques or just intracavity techniques, but the more extensive disease needs some interstitial brachytherapy or more dose in the down vagina. Then the other thing around this is the modulating the dose to the critical organs. And then interstitial brachytherapy, where there is no uterus left. So right hand side, there you can see the red color is actually disease, and then it is on the vault post-hysterectomy patients where there is a recurrence in case of CA cervix mainly. And you can see there is a cylinder through which the needles are passing, the yellow needles, and there is a perineal template. So perineal templates are actually helping those needles to insert it from the perineum. And the disease in the indications of interstitial brachytherapy is residual dose after external radiotherapy. More than 5 centimeters or more of disease is considered an adequate indication for good control. And then there can be non-negotiable OS that is considered one indication. But for me, I have never faced an OS that is non-negotiable. We'll discuss about that, because I found last day also people wanted to know about how the OS and what is the central tandem, how can we insert it. So, and then inability to pace the ovoids, yes, that can be an indication. It can happen. But nowadays, small ovoids are also very much available with the newer applicators brought by Elekta and the vendors. So those may be a relative indication now. So this is a very important slide. This is a JKSTO teaching slide. If you know, the JKSTO teaching course is organized by Dr. Umesh Mohansetti, and it has a very good impact on actually our radiation oncology community, the JKSTO teaching courses. And you see in the left hand side there is a big tumor, and the standard application is no way able to match the tumor, so it is inadequate. At the same time, in the right side, in the middle, actually you can see there is another tumor that is small, that can be actually, that is well within this customized pear-shaped dose, but at the same time the dose is overflowing to the bladder. So how can you manage? So in the left one, if we put some needles, it is actually taking the shape of the tumor. So we are modulating or sculpting the dose to this tumor region. At the same time, we're saving the bladder for advanced disease, no doubt, but for also the small tumors. If you put some needles, maybe 1 or 2, very limited number, you can see how the dose has moved actually, and now it is not going to the bladder. So we know in radiotherapy there are 2 things: killing the tumor and at the same time saving the normal structure. So importance of image guided brachytherapy and interstitial needles is not only to treat big tumors, but it is also important to save the normal organs, because you have treated the patient. Well, the patient is cured, but a patient coming to you every 6 months with a bleeding rectum or a grade 3 renal rectal toxicity or a bladder toxicity, it is, I mean, the patient will then say once she is cured, it's that better that I should have not been cured. So it is equally important that we need to save the organs and cure the disease, and there is where the indications are actually lying. So importance of advanced interstitial technique. When the disease is more than 30 centimeter, the high risk CTV or the CTV that we call, according to the GSX2 definition, the CTV, the gray zone plus palpable disease plus the whole of the cervix, we consider this high risk CTV. Then when there is a more than 30 cc disease, then actually putting interstitial needle helps more in terms of survival. But then the dose we have discussed in the last slide, otherwise it may help in sparing the normal organs. This is also this is a slide taken from this Embrace 2 protocol. Actually, after Embrace 1, the Embrace 2 with some more rigid parameters were taken, and it is a prospective study. And here we found, you can see for the smaller tumors which are really small, we can see they are getting a lot of dose, and at the same time the bigger ones, mainly the black ones which are stage 3 or 4, I think, they are receiving less doses. So their HRCTV D90 is less. So once your HRCTV volume increases, then your tumor doesn't get adequate dose. But it should actually be reversed. When your tumor is actually size is increasing, we should try to push more dose into there. So there is a need for dose escalation on the tumors which have a bigger HRCTV, which have a HRCTV more than 30, 40, and in Indian setup, we always see 60, 70, 120 is nothing surprising to us. So we need to dose escalation of those bigger tumors, and at the same time dose de-escalation, as we have seen in that picture. You can actually move the dose from the bladder back. So there, how these interstitial techniques can help us. So interstitial improved intercavity interstitial techniques are required to achieve this, and is currently being evaluated in Embrace 2 is a prospective trial. And now coming to the types of applicators, we will discuss what are the types of applicators that actually are used for intercavity interstitial type of brachytherapy. So this has been recently, there has been just 1 month back, there has been a summary of all the applicators published in Brachytherapy Journal. It is important for us to know the applicators of interstitial or intercavity brachytherapy, because then only we can do the patients, we can apply clinically. So there are ring and tandem based applicator. This is a Vienna applicator, then Vienna 2. Then there is other less popular applicators like Sriraj ring cap applicator. I also came to know about this from this publication only. Then there is a Venezia. It is actually a ring type of applicator, and with supplements to add needle from the perineum. But ideally, basically, it is a ring type of applicator. So this is one type of applicator. Those are tandem and ring-based applicators. Then there are tandem and template-based applicators. This diagram has also been taken from this systematic review, and here we can see the needles are actually passing through this, and the needle has been directed from a cylinder, which is actually acting as a template. So we have those intrauterine tandem going, and those vaginal ones also. They can also have some perineal supplements. And we also see in the left corner side there is Medanta Eolo template. It's actually from our institution. We can discuss a little more about that later, but it has also been included in this systematic review, and its diagram has been given there. And then there are the tandem and the ovoid applicators, the uteric applicator, for example. So here what is done is actually in the ovoid, some holes are drilled, and the holes are used to treat the tumor, and they actually can treat a part of the tumor or modulate the dose accordingly. Recently, very recently, a new applicator has been brought to market by Elekta, and that is the Geneva applicator. If you see on the right hand side, it is the new applicator with many new features. I think it is just improvement over the uteric applicator. Just like that, Venezia is an improvement over this ring applicator, Vienna applicator. This is must be an improvement over the uteric applicator, but this is a new applicator with many versatile features they are claiming. And then you can use a tandem on the free needles. Not much is known about such type of application, but then there are centers and there are experts who can actually do those type of applications. Now, before we go to do the interstitial brachytherapy, we have two types of patient, right? One type of patient who have actually an os, and where you can place the central tandem, and there is other type of patient who doesn't have a vault, who have a CA vault or vagina. So, in the patients who have actually a vault, who have actually an uterus, it is of paramount importance that we try to find the os and we put a needle, we put a central tandem into this uterine canal. So it is very important to find the os. So cervical brachytherapy is unique due to its anatomical consideration, because you see this ovoids, the tandem, the central tandem, it has all been devised as if on the anatomy of the cervix. And a central tandem will make the application much stable. You might remember this. A central tandem will always make the application much stable. So even if, even in cases of maybe of the not related to discussion, but maybe you have a case patient of cancer vagina, and you are going to treat it. So even if you do not load, then even you are doing interstitial technique. If you have an option, you will. Personally, I will put the central tandem to make the applicator more stable there, because the patient is going to have the applicators for 2 or 3 days, and the applicator should be more stable. So it gives a predictable and safe planning foundation, because you can load this central tandem much more heavily compared to interstitial needle, because first of all it will be loaded in the ICRT pattern, and secondly it is within the uterus. So it gives it actually gives a support to this avoids and the needles, but at the same time the dose doesn't spill to the bowel or rectum. It is confined within the uterus or fundus, and which is actually a CTV. So it is good that it is getting dose, and also that other organs at risk are actually saved. Then another thing I must say you that if you want to contour this HRCT, hello, excuse me.
Yeah, please tell. Any problems with the slides or anything?
Is it?
I think please carry on.
Okay. So now when we have a tandem is put, we should also know ki now we'll be discussing soon this complementary images and MRI. So you know the delineating HRCTV is a
Sir, his voice has been breaking.
okay. The voice is breaking. Now
Maybe
I
I can listen you very clearly. I think there might be some local network issues.
okay. So I will try to speak a little slower, maybe, right? That may help.
Okay.
Then helping to contouring the HRCTV, because once you try to contour this HRCTV, you need the dimensions of HRCTV in different direction, left, right, anterior, posterior. And if you have done a homework before you go to this theater or you do the contouring, you know at the level of the ovoids or level of the os, the HRCTV is 3 centimeter on the left, 2 on the right. And then 1 centimeter above it, this can be like this. And you also look at the pre-event images, you know the IRCTV can be like this. So having this central tandem in the os actually will help you to contour the tumors also. This is a very important thing, because HRCTV contouring otherwise in MRI, especially for the beginners, may be a difficult thing. So estimating the os. So I have told you what do you need to find the os. Now how do I find the os? How do I find the os? Because os is generally found in 50% or for 30% of patient without any problem, and rest 20% patient you will have to struggle a little. And in coming 40% patient or 25, you have to call your senior to get it. And in 15-20% patient, it is almost very difficult to find, I will say, and at times people are very difficult to find. So how do I, before I go to the theater, I will request you to estimate the position of the os. Actually, you can start thinking about this os before you go to the OR, and you see from the stage, what was the stage of the disease, what is the side of the para that was infiltrated. If there is a patient has para infiltrated more on the left side fixed, right side medially, okay. So left side fixed, the os will definitely be moved to the left because it is pulling it. Even after post EVRT, the os have a high chance that will be on the left side a little bit. See the post EBRT images. If you are doing an imaging post external beam radiotherapy, then post beam EBRT images will be obviously studying. Most of the people or many of us will actually study those for to understand the residual disease left. But apart from the residual disease, we can retrieve many other information like where is the size, where is the os is now lying, what is the position of the os, how the os is going, then position of the cervix, try to identify the canal of the cervix. If you can see this right side picture, you can find very well that in between there is a small, in the T2 fluid, there is, you can see there is a fluid. So, this is the position of the cervical canal actually. And if you pass through the sections, you can see in all the planes very carefully, you can actually have a fair idea where the os is starting. Then before you go to the theater, again, it is very important that you need to know the size of the uterine cavity. You see, this is the uterine cavity. You need to see the size of the uterine cavity, how it is. And because then you will choose the appropriate central tandem, which is very important again. Then position of the uterus, it is anteverted, retroverted. Suppose in this uterus, you will just, if you do not see anything, you come to the theater, the cervix is here, and this is because this is a disease part that is very fragile, that must be fragile. And if suppose she is an old lady, maybe of 65 or 70 years old, you will come and you will hit and you will go like this. So you will say, or I will say, the os has been found, that it has been completed. But next, if there is no USG support in the theater, then we will find it only in imaging. And if you do not do an imaging, if you do just a image, CR based planning or a X-ray, then obviously we will not know it will be placed so beautifully with giving the perfect pear shape, but then we have done actually a lot of damage, right? So it is unwise to selection of the CT scan probably at the level of the cervix. Negotiating the os in the operation theater itself or the operation room. How do we do it? Actually, this is my experience. I would like to share for you, but many of you actually will struggle to find the os, most of the DNBs and MD students. Because, in our times, we used to do a lot of cases, no doubt about it. But on the recent times, because of the increase in seat and now because of the more number of cancer centers, more HDR facilities, I think the coming people, they have some scarcity of case, I'll say in that way actually. And also there is a decreasing trend of cervical cancer. Good for the patient, but then for your learning purpose, you have to be more careful. So first inspection of the os by manual palpation using the truss or ultrasound if is available to negotiate the cervix. Try to find the rim of the cervix. It is very important. When I try to find this open inspection, what you try to see is not the disease also, but also if a residual rim of the cervix is left. And the os will be medial to that rim. And this is the case you will find in 25% of the patient or 30% of patient. This will be a great guidance. You will see a smooth ring elevated one else, and just medial to it there will be the os. So try to find that smooth mucosa part that is left actually after the disease. Then direct your sound along the path which you have already done a homework with the pre-brachytherapy imaging if you have. And then use two multitooth valsalem. You already know this. To hold the cervix or take a grip where you cannot get where the cervix is actually very deep actually. And if there is a large growth, to make a workable passage to the CT. It is in very small number of cases there will be huge growth and you will not be able to find the cervix. So then you need to make a passage actually, and this central tandem may go to the cervical canal, it may go to the uterine cavity, it may to the uterine wall, but even then this central tandem is much more useful than its interstitial needles. We have to remember this, because this central tandem is even going to help us even after if it is not in the uterine cavity, if it is in the muscle walls. And how do you know into the muscle? When you put this dilator, you will find this uterine wall is actually biting this central tandem. It will not allow you to come out or go in. It is whenever you put inside, it will try to bite the central tendon. It will just hold it. There is a muscular grip in it. And after you have found the os and you have put the central tendon, you must always confirm that the central tendon is within the os. So information from pre-op imaging. There is an example. You can see on the left-hand side, we can see a sagittal image of of the uterus. You can see the fundus is thinned out. She is almost a 75 years old lady, and you can see it is thinned out. So if we do not know what is here, then we'll just simply go and perforate this fundus, and we'll put the but the fundus will be perforated, and then you can see some fluid is there. So once you do, you need to dilate the os a little bit. The last day there was a discussion I was hearing. So is it mandatory to dilate the os? Well, for me, I think if it is good actually. It's good practice to dilate the os always. It is a very nice practice, a good practice. But in the HDR era, at times, if you know that you are going to make a single application only, then dilating it may not be so much important if there is not any fluid or fluid inside. Actually, it may actually be beneficial if it will hold the central ternum in a good grip. Then you see another thing from this slide. You see anteriorly there is so much of growth. So if you know that anteriorly you need needles actually, so you should try to see the tumor in all the 3 dimensions. So next step is pre-planning of inserting the needles. So we all know putting pre-planning is required to put the needles. Now we all know. So pre-planning is mandatory. We can see that I have just drawn this lens in 3 dimensions actually. Left, how much it is from the central canal, and also here also you can see, and here also you can see that I have put this. I have done this canal length. I have tried to draw before I am going to the theater. So clinical examination, drawings, images, MRI, those are very important. Clinical response assessment finding, and primary imaging modality of brachytherapy application, and know your applicator or template. If you are going to put interstitial needles, know where the needles will go and how they will pass, and what are the number of needles that may be required. You have to prepare all those things. Then what is the priming imaging modality you are going to use after you have put the needles? Is it CT? Is it MRI? Those is very important. Decide the length to be inserted and decide the needle positions. So we can see here we need maybe 1 or 2 needles here. So it is like this, or in the last image until you need needles. So those are all things you need to be decided. You cannot do those things in the operation theater. So the anesthetist is sitting and the patient is under anesthesia. You need to do all it before. So in the operating room, always use the stellate along with the catheters. They cannot insert the catheters alone, even if they are steel catheters. Use TRAS or ultrasound in the operation theater if these are available. Note the length of the central ternum outside the introitus. This is very important. You must mark the length of the central ternum that is coming outside the introitus, because this amount of you have to check repeatedly during this treatment and later on. Insert the applicator tendon and secure it fixedly with the central ternum. So if it is interstitial, moped or vein or ring, whatever it is, after you have put the central ternum, you need to put this ring or template or whatever, secure it fixedly. The cylinder in the vagina, you have to put all very fixity. You have to check it. Then insert the needle as thought before. You have already planned, and now modify according to the clinical findings in the OR, because many of us do not get to examine the patient before the patient is actually taken under anesthesia. So we need to examine, we get to examine the patient when only the patient is in the operation theater under anesthesia. In India, it is mostly the case. So we need to modify the findings, because examination under anesthesia is very vital thing. Last day, as Dr. Dr. Abhishek told you, it is actually the gold standard, and the gold standard is to be implemented under anesthesia, because then only you can find what is a true disease, what is a fibrotic band, what is actually there in this parametrium. Insert a few more needles when in doubt. This is very important. If you think there is you are missing something, put more few needles. It is not going to add any more suffering to the patient, neither is going to cause any problem. Just put some extra needles. They are not going to cause any problem. Okay. Bad implant cannot be compensated by the good planning. This is very important. We must understand that if we do not do this job up to here in the operation theater properly, then nothing is going to benefit. Then a good planning is not going to happen. Then ultimately your 200% will be very high, or whatever the organs will receive those. You cannot say your physicist, give me a good plan, if you have not put enough needles and if you have not done a proper homework before going to the theater. So this is very important. A bad implant cannot be compensated by good planning. And in the operating theater, we generally ask our physicists to be present. In many centers, it is like that. In Tata Memorial Hospital and in most of the centers, the physicist is in the operation theater, and it actually helps. Number of the needles, physics, they need to make a diagram, schematic diagram, how many needles you are being putting, note the length of the needles inserted. This is also important because at time, the patient may cough, the patient may have some rigor, and many things can happen. Some part of the applicator actually may come out, and if you do not know how much was inserted, then things will be, not right in the proper way. Avoid putting free needles unless you are a recognized expert by the others, right? This is very important. Recognized expert, I mean, for people with less experience, they should not try putting free needles, okay? Because there is a question actually which used to arise to me also when I didn't have an applicator. Why can't I put free needles? But I never tried to. But then I have seen people putting, they are really experts, our teachers, but we need to have a considerable amount of experience to put free needles. So that we must remember, because for the sake of doing brachytherapy, we cannot put to jeopardize the clinical results of the patient, or we cannot do an experimentation for our just we want to do interstitial. It's not like that, right? And then do not forget to do the PR examination when you have completed the process. This is very important. And we should try to do this PR examination with single gloves only, because if you take double gloves, you may not feel the needle. It may be some misleading. So always do the PR examination with a single gloves. That is what I prefer. And do not forget to put the flattest tube, right? So determining the length of the needles. This is again an important thing many of us would like to see. So you see the left hand side is a CA vagina or CA vault, actually CA vault, and there is no uterus. How do I decide what length of needle we need to put? So I have made a schematic diagram again for you. You see this is the vault, this is the disease going, and the left side is more, and here it is going up to this middle third of vaginal vault. And I am just putting this, you must to understand each needles has some offset where the source cannot travel, where we cannot get a source position. This is offset. It may be 0.7 centimeter, 0.5 or 1 centimeter, depending on the type of the catheter. Then the length of the vault, see, this is the length of the vault. So this is the offset, tumor thickness here, then length of the vault. Then we go to this perineum or the soft tissue. Here, tumor, offset tumor, then length of the vault, then perineum of the soft tissue. You need to account for everything. And then you need a 0.5 centimeter gap with this. When there is a template here, there will be a gap. There is a natural gap will come after you have stitched. It will be at least 0.5 centimeter. Then thickness of the template and this guard. And we need adequate number of outside this number of catheters. Then we need adequate amount of needles to remain outside the template, which will actually we need to because you need to attach the catheters to the transfer tube. So you need also that one, right? So now how much needle do we put, and what is the amount of what is the length that we need to insert, right, in both intercavity, interstitial, and pure interstitial type of technique. So this is, you see a diagram, this is schematic diagram. The last time you have seen this IBS guideline where the cervix has been actually graduated in the length, has been schematically drawn. So this diagram is actually the precursor of this diagram, that diagram. It was my project which I did with Professor Potter and Dr. Umesh Mohansetti actually. So the diagram was devised there. And if you see 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So above 4 centimeters, there is hardly any tumor of lateral extent that needs to be addressed. So here also I have put this different width of the tumor. So you should understand that from the os of the cervix, a 4 or 5 centimeter insertion of needle will be adequate in all cases. You do not need to put more. Here you can see their needle is high up. Actually, this type of needle insertion should not happen. These may actually injure the pelvic vessels if you put in steel needles too high up. So this is very important. The length of the needle above the vault of vagina should be 4 to 5 centimeter. And in this picture, we have a distant needle more proximally than it is required. So this height is not required. We should know this. So interstitial procedure, MUPIT. So MUPIT is a versatile template, right? It is an excellent template Many of our centers actually has MUPIT, and that is actually the backbone of interstitial brachytherapy in most of the centers, and it has remained till now, because the interstitial intercavity techniques are more of recent types, although they used to be practiced in the elite centers, but it is now available to the commoner centers in very recently. It's a very recent happening for us. So MUPIT is a perennial template excellent in providing desired dose distribution. The number of flexibility it has, because of the number of needles we can put through it, it gives a very good dose distribution. It can cover almost any type of vault cancer or cervix cancer, right? It can, it is helpful measuring the length of the vault inside the central tandem. You see, in this case, we have put a central tandem. It is not a needle, it is a central tandem that has been screwed. So this is also important. In MUPIT, actually, you can put a central tandem, and you need to be careful, and you can, if you put it, the central tandem, if it is possible, always put the central tandem. And then you need to put this you need to put this fast the template, the needles, then you need to put the guard. Do not ever never forget to put this guard actually. Then it actually holds the needle in position. So insert the needle in the central hole, and then insert other needle as pre-planned. So this is MUPIT. This is a very commonly used template, and we should know it. Many of you may be having the examining as the instrument also, I think. Then perennial template maybe are the Soid-Neblet type of template. Another important, so this is also similar type of template, and is also used widely. It has also, you can see there is a central tandem, a cylinder, and places to insert the needles. Another thing, when you are doing an interstitial implant, at times you will find the needles will go and hit the sacrum actually. It will not go beyond. You will find this bony resistance. So we actually should understand that while the template is there to direct the needles, we need a direction of the template itself. We should try to hold the template in a proper way in the plane of the cervix, or we should hold it in a way that the needles find their path into the disease. So while putting the needles in the anterior part, we should see that if we can manipulate a little bit of the template or the intercavity application, actually your needles will not go to the bladder, it will go to the disease. And the same stands when you are doing putting the posterior needles. So while the template has a fixed geometry, you can modify some direction of the needles when you use the template very meticulously. So those are the things. Always secure the needles with 2 layers of screw and the guard. I have already told. Apply betadine in the needle apertures to fix or jam them. You know, when you are putting the needles, you will always find they are loose at times. But the day of the removal, what you find is that needles are so fixed to these holes that your nursing staff or your technologist is not being able to remove after putting the screw. So how they are getting so fixed? So you need to put some betadine in the needle aperture to fix or jam them. Secure the template to the skin by adequate stitching, and you should understand this stitching is actually should not be too tight and too loose, should not be. And mark the position of the needle and the template in the patient's thigh or the body, because this is going to be a guide for all of us throughout the course of treatment. So know your needles. Now you have known your template. It's time that we should know what needle are you using. Either we are using the plastic needles, which are available by many vendors like Varian, Electa, also these Indian ones, then titanium and or steel. So this is a nice slide by medical physicist from Vienna, Daniel Varga, who is currently now engaged with the IAEA. So he has made such a nice slide, you can see. So it actually, steel needles produce a lot of artifact, but are good. And then also you need to know this one, you see, the needle, the need to pass outside the tumor, because the needle insertion depth, should be more than the tumor itself. The needle can be loaded up to a certain point only. The rest is offset. You cannot load them. And even here, actually, the fast source position should be just at the margin of the tumor or just outside this. So then only you will get an adequate coverage. So perennial interstitial template is time tested, cumbersome to take the assembly. It's painful for the patient. Chances of displacement, as it is attached to the perineum. Artifact in the CT needle, you all understand there could be a lot of artifact and more chances of organ perforation due to sharp steel needles. and you have seen in the last one, right? And more chance of bleeding due to the still divergent needles, because when you put the needles, they actually cut through the tissue. So actually, there are some things, but even then, it is a very highly efficient template. Timeline. So this, for some reason, those are the disadvantages. We decided to make procure our own template actually from our hospital, but unfortunately we could not because of the logistic reason, because the templates are quite costly, you understand. And as I told you, brachytherapy is a subject where nobody wants to invest. So it is the time that you need to invest yourself. Nobody is going to help you. All you need is to do is invest from your own pocket, right? So you see, we have started our developing the template. The picture I already have shown you, developing the Medanta AOLO, Medanta anterior oblique lateral oblique template, and applicate at the same time. We started in somewhere in March 19. We got the first prototype after a few attempts, and each level the feedback was done. We did a lot of planning. The detail I am not going. We took the IRB, institutional review board permission, ethical committee permission. First case was treated. Until date, we have treated 9 cases. We are not rushing through the cases. We just are treating the cases who are indicated and who can be actually be benefited from this. So in last 2 years, we have treated only 9 cases, treated successfully 70%. And I will tell you, all the patients, I have local control, all of the 100% local control with our patients. And we have presented the clinical summary of 5 cases in the last ASTRO. So this is just, I am not going to detail in this template, but for many of you I know you will be interested to know how it happens, how can you do something. Yes, we need to draw some schematic diagrams, we need to make planning in the computer, we need to go to the workshop ourselves, we need to make some models, we need to improve over them, and finally we will get the desired one. So this is the desired one. This is the Medanta AOLO template with the Electra nucleotron commercially available central tandem, and these needles by the Kalyani Private Limited from India. So this is how our template looks, and this is our own fixation device for the template or the applicator. So advantage and uniqueness of our template, I must say in one line, because it is actually now a standard template. It's a single piece of applicator. State needles can be put. So putting the state needles makes it more advantageous to plan. Actually, it can treat upper part of the vagina more than the standard ones. It allows intercavity interstitial type of loading for cervical cancer. The 200% of dose is mainly confined with the applicator at times, and the user dependence and learning curve is very less. This line is very important because we all are assembling here to understand intercavity or interstitial brachytherapy, and this thing for this Medanta AOLO, it is very less learning curve because then it is very straightforward putting inside. So we have in our applicator, we have achieved a number of milestones. We have presented in a number of conferences, posters. We have got award from the Indian Brachytherapy and NH Brachytherapy Meet Award. So we have published this as a technical note. If you there is a video attached to this. I think I should not go into this. Dr. Dodul, should I show this, or I think it is less of time, right? I should skip this.
I think we can watch this. That will be wonderful.
Okay, you guys want to see it? So I am just showing you. So you see, I have put the central tandem actually, and now I am putting the Medanta AOLO template. This is the first case that I have done. We are around 1.5 or 2 years back, and after putting central tandem, we are putting this template. Let me forward it on. Then just with the hold of speculum, you need to, with the Xylogen jelly liberally used, you need to push the template inside the vagina, and you need to push it with some Hager's dilator or some sound to push it inside. And now it is inside. Once you know that, you see, you can see this template is inside, and now you need to put the catheters. You know what are the oblique holes, what are the straight holes, and you have already done a pre-planning. See how smoothly we can do it. You can see I am just seeing the holes and putting the catheters. There is no bending of the needles, no bending of the catheters, nothing. Just that we need to put it. And simply we will put all the catheters like this. And the first application itself took less than an hour, actually half an hour after. So you see, we have put all the catheters. So this is about this template. You can see, and I am putting this with the stillets actually. The plastic catheter obviously are going to be placed always with the stillet, but at that time we had less of stillet. You see, so I had to remove and adjust them. But now we have a lot of stillet. I have 50 stillets right now. Then okay, I think it is done. And then it is done. You can see how we have put all the catheters. And now I am going to remove the son, and it is done. Okay. So imaging in image-guided brachytherapy, pre-RT MRI examination must be T2 weighted. This is very important. Additional scan or contrast scans are not mandatory. They can help, but they are not mandatory. Contrast enhancing images can overestimate the tumor extension. So we should, during this brachytherapy procedure, we do not need any contrast enhanced imaging of this contrast enhanced images. And CT-based planning, a plane scan is generally used. We do a general scan, plane scan. Many centers can do contrast, but we think it is not required. Any stellate or marker is to be taken out when you are doing a CT-based planning, because that will reduce the artifact. And we need to take a CT planning planning scan, right? So target volume delineation, there is nothing lot to say here. Dr. Abhishek has told very nice presentation last day. You can see this JK stroke guideline from the IBS guideline. I have just taken the picture for you, because I generally in our center, we do not have MRI compatible template. MRI complete template we have, but we do not got a MRI compatible central tunnel. So we do by CT. So in MRI, you can see how beautifully this has been drawn, and you can draw if you have got MRI compatible template. That is the gold standard actually. And then target volume delineation in CT, because we do in CT, and most of the centers actually are still doing it in CT in India. You can see that I have drawn this this HRCTV from this MRI, my clinical findings, AUSG finding in the OR and everything, and I have drawn. TRAS is very valuable companion. If you can have it, or if you can actually arrange for a TRAS, then GTV cannot be drawn in CT scan. Generally, it is thought, and many centers draw only CTV that represents the HRCTV. That I must tell you, although we all say JK-STRO guideline, but many of the centers actually do not draw all those HRCTV, IRCTV. They draw the CTV, and by CTV they mean actually HRCTV, because there are issues of logistics, manpower, time, many things in the patient. So this is how we are drawn. This when on a CT scan, when you are drawing these contours, you should be very careful. CT is the primary image. It is not the gold standard. You need to assimilate the pre-EBRT finding, post-EBRT MRI images, and then clinical examination, TRAS finding, everything you need to take in account. Then you need the planning. You need to reconstruct the catheters. I think here you can see that in our case, the catheters have been reconstructed. It is straight catheters, like very less time to reconstruct, especially in CT, where the catheter reconstruction is very easy, and it is the gold standard in catheter reconstruction actually. So this is another slide of our Daniel Berger. It is a very nice slide, and you can see the presentations versus interstitial planning approach. You can see this is a normalization reference point, right? So balanced weight of the catheter. So all of the intercavity and interstitial both can be seen in the same slide. You can just follow it. We have put quite a number of catheters, and we have some basal points. The basal points, the yellow colored normalization reference point, the Paris system follows the basal point dose coverage. And so here it is, according to this, we can see the 100% isotope is covering. And according to the basal point, it is based on this 85% or 80% principle actually. So this is how it looks. The 200% are well separated from each other, and they can be seen differently. And then when we are trying to do an interstitial intercavity type of application, you see there is a cylinder that can happen. There is a cylinder, and this catheter, some of the catheters are lying within the cylinder. Now what happens? There is a normalization point which is outside the cylinder, and you see here it is how it is now. This one need to cover this volume, not this one, and this is how you can see this 200% is now well within the applicator. So this is actually an intracavitary plus interstitial type of planning, and this is a pure interstitial type of planning. Now I must say this intracavity plus interstitial, it can be, the term can be used little interchangeably, because now you are seeing the ring and the overt planning. They are also intracavity interstitial, but they are a little different type, and this is little different type, because this is all within the cylinder there. So here in this level, it is intracavity plus interstitial. As we can see, this is intracavity plus interstitial here, but in higher level, it is pure interstitial. It is this one. So this is how it is, and so we understand the difference between intercavity and interstitial type of planning, and what are the basic principles of that. So planning and dose prescription, interstitial intracavity type of planning, standard intracavity loading normalization to point A is the standard. Source position of needle tube should be manually activated in relation to the target. This is the JKSTO guideline. Dwell time in the needle, its range is 10 to 20%, maximum 25%, but generally 10% to 20%. Plan evaluation and documentation of DVH parameters, you already discussed last day. So those are to be done. Then interstitial type, this is the intracavity interstitial type. I will soon come with a diagram. And then interstitial type, this actually follows the Paris system, including the defining the basal point. And once you have done a basal point optimization, you need to do some more optimization, because that will not cover all of the tumors, because your needle obviously will always not be the right place and right number. So that happens to everybody, not only to the somebody who is doing an XYZ, but all of us. So we need to then optimize them. How do you optimize? We can optimize them manually, or we can optimize them graphically. Although graphical optimization is not encouraged, most of the centers or many fuses actually do graphical optimization, but local graphical optimization. They do it locally in this small part. So after the graphical optimization has been done, you need to check the plans in every slice to see if you have missed something, if there is a hotspot, if you are missing something. So graphical optimization is to be used with caution. And manual optimization is a superior way of optimization than graphical optimization. But I must tell you, manual optimization is done more easily by patients, by in the hospitals where there are dedicated medical physicists for brachytherapy, which are high volume centers, who are actually doing brachytherapy quite a few times in a week. So they are the medical physicists, they know how to optimize, and that is easy also. But when the patient is lying with the template inside, your physicist is, if you can request the physicist, I hope he agrees, but then most of the physicists will go for some sort of graphical optimization, and you need to check the plan very meticulously. So this is our Medanta ALO template. Again, I showed you it is capable of an IC and IS type of loading. In the superior panel, you can see that we have produced an IC type of intracavity type of dose distribution, typical pear-shaped dose distribution from all angles. And then when we can see the target is going outside those blue lines, the target is going outside the blue lines in the left side. So now we need to do some manual optimization. Now we have activated the needles and we have manually covered, and you can see how beautifully we are now covering with this 100% ISO dose. So how it did, how it is. So interstitial, now there is beside this standard with the standard IC and IS type of instrument, there are also MUPIT, how it told. And in MUPIT also you may need to do an intracavity interstitial type of loading. Here you can see the central tendon is going into the uterus. You see this in a MUPIT application. And here you need to take advantage of the central tendon, as I was discussing previously, and you need to load it. And so it is a type of intracavity plus interstitial, though it is not that one, the standard one that you see in a ring or a VN applicator or a Medanta AOLO or a Utrec, but there is some sort of support from the intracavity tandem. Standard IC loading is not possible, and here. So intact uterus allows us to do more loading in the central tandem. The 200% dose is confined within the uterine cavity, which itself also is a part of the target. If you not HRCTB, it is a part of IRCTB for sure. So there is no harm in loading it, and we all want to treat the up to fundus. Then this is another slide, may be useful or not, but I just wanted to talk because there is another type of optimizable target point optimization based on the points of the contour that you have drawn. The physicist will give some, will do some loading, the computer will do, and here it will try to match the, it will try to cover the whole of the target. And then, but here you see there is high 200% coverage to match the target. While in the basal point optimization, you can see the 200% is much less. The dose actually may be, the dose is actually not covering all of it, maybe. But at the same time, we now need to do some sort of graphical or manual optimization here and there to match it. And here, you can see this needle has been deliberately omitted because of its proximity to the rectum, right? And here, the coverage is good, but then the same time, the 200% may give you unacceptable toxicity, and then those issues, those are not desirable. So target point optimization is not a recommended method. So dose prescription D90 HRCTV minimum EQ2 dose 80 gray is recommended. We all know from the advanced stage 2B and 3B, we say ki JKSTO nowadays says ki 85 to 90 gray is recommended. But remember one thing, for us who are doing CT-based planning, and many of you who will start doing it in the coming time, CT-based contouring gives and CTV is overestimated. So the D90 HRCTV that is a standard of MRI. Actually, you should in CT-based planning, you should do it with a caution. It may be a nice idea to put the dose between 80 and 85 if you do not meet the target. So do not fire the target to reach a dose of 85 gray. That is all I want to say. You do not need to fire the target. If you achieve 80 gray dose to the CTV with the dose of the rectum and bladder well controlled in CT planning, then I think it will eventually reach the same level of a MRI-based brachytherapy. OR constants are to be respected, very important. As I told you, no patient wants a cure with a bleeding PR or a bleeding passing urine. That is intolerable pain. In post-op setting, 16 to 24 go in 4 to 6 fraction after EBRT is given. In many centers, higher fractions are given, like in AIMS. They give 9 or 10 gray per fractions, and they have well documented and published their own result. They are also considered safe, but mostly it is 16 to 24 gray, and the dose fraction is mostly 4 gray per fraction, not more than that. Most of the centers practice it. The EQ2 Excel sheet, this you can get in the JKSTO site or the Embrace site or the ABS site, and it is highly recommended once you are doing this planning. Most commonly, 4 sessions are done. If 2 applicators and for each session, 2 sessions, 1 application is enough. So we do not do 4 applications. Application, I mean insertion of the applicator under general anesthesia. So we generally do 2 applications and we treat 4 sessions. However, you should remember that at some time, single application maybe we have to delve to the 4 treatment sessions for the logistic issues, maybe a poor, frail patient, issue with expenditure, anesthesia problem, too much long treatment time has already passed, so you need to confine within 50 or 54 days. So here you can treat by 1 application and 4 sessions, but you need to check the images. At least on the second day, you should do a planning CT and or a fluoroscopic examination along with those clinical marks and the drawing you have put, and you should see if the applicator is in position. You should see the needle position. That is why it is very important to see the needle position, to see the central tandem, everything. So interstitial treatments are mostly done in 1 application, except again in few centers, and it is generally this 16 to 24 gain, 4 to 6 days, 4 to 6 fraction over 2 to 3 days. That is how typically it is. Care of the patient, IV fluids, you must give clear liquids, then adequate analgesia, clear fluids, loperamide tablet, IV antibiotics, leg massage and movement. We generally avoid any form of anticoagulant because it may cause bleeding at the time of the removal of the applicator, especially Mupid applicator. They have sharp needles. Care and compassion, very important thing. When the patient lying with a perineal template is she or actually has intolerable pain and very low, depressed, it's a very unlikely site for the patient relative also. The patient, the mother or sister is lying with this perineal template with a needle inserted in the perineum. We should be very careful about such patient and should deal with them very compassionately. And we should watch for bleeding in the urine. If bleeding in urine happens, nothing to do, but even then we should know. And I will share with you very interesting case. It is actually we are concluding the talk almost, and I told you that OS may be non-negotiable. So you see this patient, this is the pre-EBRT image here, both upper, and you see the post-EBRT image here, right? Pre-EBRT, post-EBRT, and there is actually no change in the tumor volume, and even after 3 weeks of post-EBRT. So what do? Many suggested us to send the patient for hysterectomy, but we said, well, we take a chance. And we did our Medanta AOLO application. Here you can see we have just put the center. We have just put the central tandem drilling through the tumor. Drilling through, going inside, and you see it is up to the fundus. I do not know if it is tumor or not, but it is going up to fundus, and we treated the whole of it, and we treated it adequately. The patient is now in control for last 1 year. You can see it is an unexceptional HRCTV. Many people will say how it can happen, but here you can see we treated up to fundus. And so sigmoid rectum bladder doses were satisfactory. We treated 7 into 4 fractions. The patient is fine now. Removing the applicator. This is another important thing. Sedation anesthesia, whenever possible, should be given. Actually, it relaxes the patient. IV access is a must when you are removing the application. I remember Dr. Abhishek told in detail about those things. I'm not going to detail. I must tell about something that is more in relevance with the interstitial techniques. Metallic oblique needles should be removed separately. This is not that you put the applicator at the one go and remove it, although it was because a metallic oblique needle should be removed separately, because otherwise while removing this needle they may cause a tear in this vagina and it is called severe bleeding. So metallic oblique needles should be removed separately. Watch for bleeding. Avoid using anticoagulants. I have already told. Use state of use manual massage and adequate analgesia assurance. Watch carefully about removable tips of the catheter. This is another thing, because in this era of plastic catheters, when the catheters are reused, you should look into the tips of the catheters, right? The tip of the catheter. You can see there may be a bending, there may be, it generally doesn't happen. I'm not, but you should always know that it can happen and you should check the catheters adequately. Clinical results of perineal image-guided brachytherapy, published in 2015, I think. And until we were discussing about both types of brachytherapy, perineal brachytherapy is equally good, and and it has local control, excellent local control of almost 80% in 34 months median follow-up. Lower tumor total dose has a lower inferior control. You all know that it should be more than 85 or 80 actually. Reasonable. It is the reasonable alternative interest cavity plus interstitial. I have put this slide to show that if you do not have a IC plus IS type of applicator, that is quite costly and is not always available. Then there is perineal templates are as good in clinical purpose as the those sophisticated applicators. And this nothing more. So we will discuss something. There are two surveys available here. One by Dr. Anish Banerjee and one from Tata Hospital. You know, there are some difference in result. It happens actually because target population must be different. But then CT was used in most of the cases, 65% of the patient, and here 52. So actually CT is available in more than half of the centers, and we can do interstitial brachytherapy as I understand. So CT is the one of the main things. MRI is gold standard, but CT is indispensable, right? So CT scan can be used for interstitial planning and pursuing an interstitial treatment program. So many of you are doing interstitial, many of you are not doing. So there is growing interest among the radiation oncologists, mostly on this AORI JK2 initiative because of Indian Brachytherapy Society. The templates and SDR machines are available with most of us. The templates are available actually, but initiative on part of physician and physicist is required. We need to be more, we need to push the barriers and we need to achieve it. To be very honest, if you want to do interstitial brachytherapy in cancer cervix, self-help is the best help. You need to do yourself. You need to convince your colleagues, your teachers, your medical physicists, the anesthetists, the patients, that is going to give a long-term benefit in thing. The most important thing is being passionate about the things you want to do, even if it is right. So brachytherapy solutions. I am just showing this slide to make you understand that templates and applicators are not always available. You need to make your own at times. Here you can see we have recently made a along with this Medanta Aero template, we have many other templates. We have made the prostate one. This is a very relatively easier thing, but we are doing prostate. We made our own template on that way, although it is simple, but it needs to be done, right? We also made this vagina vault template that is recently IRB got approval and we are going to use it very soon. And I will let you know the results. Besides this, this is actually a template for the anal canal cancer, I must tell you. And this is the template, electronucleotron thing for this rectum. So once we needed to take a frail lady who will not be able to take the perineal template for 3 days, and what we did, we simply put micropores on side of this rectal template, the surface template. You can see we have put it and we have adjusted the anal canal template in between, and we have done the vaginal brachytherapy. Although it is a vaginal brachytherapy, I am just showing you the slides so that we can understand how things needs to be moved in a department if you have the will. And thank them all. They are the people who have actually led us through, guided us through all the way, and many of the people you know here, our teachers here, and this is how it is. And thank you all. This is the last slide, and I would like to thank my whole team, our chairperson, our medical physicist, our colleagues here, everything. So I think we are done with the presentation.
Thank you so much, Dr. Banerjee, for this mind-blowing talk and your innovative applicator. That's definitely something encouraging for the young generation, that yes, if you are motivated enough, you can do many things in the department. Just to add one line, that yes, the department has to support your interest as well.
Yes, definitely. And that is why I acknowledge thanks of all my departmental colleagues and our team leader, because in each and every step I have got wonderful support from them. And it is very important for all the department to understand, if somebody is doing something, then it must be, if somebody is doing, then we should help him actually. And this also applies to us also. We should also motivate and encourage our colleagues who want to defend it. You may not like radio surgery, you may not like, or you may like or do not interested, but then if somebody is doing it with a passion, we should always follow. So it is not that brachytherapy is the only thing in our department that needs to be promoted. All things need to be promoted and all people should work together. Then that is how things flourish actually.
Excellent, sir. So if you are willing, can we take few questions?
Sure, no problem.
So the first question is how to plan brachy in case of subtotal hysterectomy with leftover cervical stump.
I think we have a subtotal hysterectomy with leftover. Yes. So
cervical, yes, leftover cervical stump.
We will personally think. I think we should put a central tandem in that also. Even 2 or 3 centimeter will go. We should put it. Because subtotal hysterectomy with the cervical stump, in my experience, I have seen actually central tandem actually goes into it. So if available, we should do that.
So would you like to add some needles to it, or just central tandem with ovoids?
No, is there a disease left?
So let us discuss two scenarios, one with a leftover disease also, and the other one without disease but some small cervical stump.
Without disease, small cervical stump, I will go a simple small tandem and ovoids, that's all. And if there is a disease which extends, then we will go for inserting some needles. Because the central tandem here will not be able to contribute a lot to the dose. That we must understand. So the needles in his case will be helping more, because to the point A, when you do a traditional ICRT, the point A is contributed a lot with the central tandem. The bigger the central tandem is, the more beautiful is the dose distribution. So if there is a small central tandem, maybe 3 centimeter or 2 centimeter, 3 centimeter, it is actually not contribute a lot. So it is always better to supplement by needles if there is some residual disease, at least.
The next question: if patient has a recurrence after 2 years from initial treatment, a local recurrence, what dose would you prescribe?
Well, those are things that needs to be discussed, not like this, but seeing the clinical record of the patient, her condition, the organ of the organs, if there are any pre-radiation signs or symptoms of the patient, there are a lot of things to decide. And those do not also have a standard answer to give, whoever asks the question, because but yes, if she is curable, it's up 2 years and radiation is a treatment, we will always try to give more full dose if we can actually. So those the re-radiation cases in gynecological oncology are always, in any oncological setup, is actually decided case by case. But we should all aim for a curative dose.
Yeah, so just to mention that this Friday we are having a dedicated lecture on recurrent gynecological malignancies, which will be taken by Professor D.N. Sharma. And also a very interesting debate this Wednesday, after so many discussions about image-guided brachytherapy, technological advancements. So is technological advancement giving any meaningful benefit in gynecological malignancy? So that's a debate. And we'll be having Dr. Supriya Malik from National Cancer Institute, AIMS, and Dr. Ajit Gandhi from RML Lucknow. Going to be a very interesting and hot debate. So request all of you to participate in the debate. And with this, we are going to conclude today's session. Thank you so much, sir, for giving your time.
Thank you, everybody, for attending
making this a success.
Wonderful success. And thank you, Dr. Dodul Mondal, for allowing me to talk in a prestigious forum. Thank you.
It's a pleasure of all of us to have you, sir. Thank you so much. Good night. Good night, everyone. Good night. See you on Wednesday.